Now we start with the Middle East. In Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, while addressing Knesset plenum, says that Israel is determined to enforce the ceasefire agreements in Gaza and Lebanon with an iron fist. Netanyahu has also stated that military pressure on Hamas and the IDF operation in Gaza City, along with the addition of diplomatic pressure to isolate Hamas that was applied by the U.S., allowed to Israel to bring home all the living hostages and the vast majority of the fallen hostages.
אנחנו נחושים לאכוף ביד ברזל את ההסכמים להפסקת אש עם מבקשי נפשנו, כמובן ככל שההסכמים הללו קיימים. ואתם יכולים לראות מה שקורה יום-יום בלבנון.
Meanwhile, IDF says that it killed 3 Hezbollah operatives in separate strikes across southern Lebanon over the past 24 hours, and a total of 15 Hezbollah operatives have been killed since the beginning of November, adding that their activities posed a threat to Israel and violated the understandings between Israel and Lebanon. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mohammad Khatibi. He's a Middle East affairs expert, joins us live from Tehran. Thank you very much, Mr. Khatibi, for joining us again. Good to see you. Looking at this, do you think that they are ready to talk about phase 2 now, and can a lasting Gaza ceasefire be achieved without clear framework for post-conflict governance and international stabilization force or efforts in Gaza? In Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, while addressing Knesset plenum, has stated that Israel is determined to enforce the ceasefire agreements in Gaza and Lebanon with an iron fist. Netanyahu has also stated that military pressure on Hamas and the IDF operation in Gaza City, along with the addition of diplomatic pressure to isolate Hamas that was applied by the U.S., allowed Israel to bring all the living hostages back, and also the majority of the fallen hostages. Meanwhile, IDF said that it has killed 3 Hezbollah operatives in separate strikes across southern Lebanon over the past 24 hours, and a total of 15 Hezbollah operatives have been killed since the beginning of November, adding that their activities posed a threat to Israel and violated the understandings between Israel and Lebanon. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mohammad Khatibi. He's a Middle East affairs expert, joins us live from Tehran. Thank you very much, Mr. Khatibi, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, do you think for Gaza and Israel, are they ready to enter phase 2? As we know that there's still a lot of problems in Gaza's peacefire deal, phase 1, and can a long-lasting Gaza ceasefire be achieved without a clear framework for post-conflict governance, according to you?
According to the United Nations and the NGOs working in the Gaza Strip, the situation is really hard for Palestinians, and only 30% of the aid needed is entering the Gaza Strip, and this is against the ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel. So control of much of the Gaza Strip, and this is another issue. And Israel is insisting that Hamas should lay down arms. We all know that Hamas is not willing to do that, because Hamas knows that if it lays down its arms, there will be no Hamas, and the political issue of Hamas will be no more. So Hamas gained this idea when Israel attacked Qatar 1 or 2 months ago, and it targeted Hamas members in Doha. So the ceasefire is really fragile, and everyone is hoping that this will continue. There are bodies of Israeli captives right now in the Gaza Strip, and Hamas does not have the control of them. And this is another issue that is pressing. Other than that, turning to other issues in the Middle East, the Israelis are attacking and violating the ceasefire with Lebanon on so many false contexts and false pretexts. So Israel is trying to expand its colonial objectives inside the occupied Palestinian territories and increased, and no one is trying to pressure it, including the United States. And without the United States' help, Israel would have faced much of pressure in the United Nations and the UN Security Council. All of the resolutions targeting Israeli crimes in the Palestinian territories were vetoed by the United States, and this is the most important issue. The US support will pressure Israel not to be in the ceasefire.
Yes, with that, I would like to thank Mr. Khatibi for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now we stay in the region. U.S. President Donald Trump has called Syrian President Ahmad al-Sharaa tough, stating that Shara's rough past will help him rebuild the war-torn country. Trump has also stated that some announcements can soon be expected on Syria. Let's listen in.
Yeah, you can expect some announcements on Syria. We want to see Syria become a country that's very successful, and I think this leader can do it. I really do. I think this leader can do it. And people said he's had a rough past. We've all had rough pasts. But he has had a rough past, and I think, frankly, if you didn't have a rough past, you wouldn't have a chance.
Meanwhile, Sharaa has stated that his association with al-Qaeda is a matter of the past and was not discussed during his meeting with Donald Trump. The meeting comes after a major shift in U.S. policy, with the Treasury Department extending the suspension of sanctions enforcement under the 2019 Caesar Act for another 180 days. However, only Congress can fully lift the sanctions. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Mohammad Khatibi. He's a Middle East affairs expert, joins us live from Tehran. Thank you very much, Mr. Khatibi, for staying with us. Now looking at this, how is President Ahmad al-Sharaa's visit to Washington reshaping Syria's geopolitical alignment, especially its relations with the West, compared to its traditional allies such as Iran?
So the most important issue about Syria is normalizing with Israel. I think the main issue that is pushing forward the relationship between Syria and the West is that Syria wants to normalize with Israel. Ashara talking about the extremists in his government, and he's talking about being away from Al-Qaeda or other extremist groups. And it's not accurate, because there are many groups inside the Ashara government and are former Al-Qaeda fighters, and they are trying to pressure al-Shah to be more active inside Syria. Also, I think that Israel plays a great and significant role in this, and many people, many politicians in the US want Syria to normalize with Israel. And I don't think that Israel wants the Syria in complete shape. As we have seen in past months, Israel wants to divide Syria into smaller countries, as we have seen in its attack on Suwaida, where it attacked Syrian territory because of supporting Druze minorities, and on that pretext, it went on to bomb many of Syria's important infrastructure. After the fall of Assad, Israel did not stop attacking Syrian infrastructure, and the attacks are aimed at degrading ISIS and militant groups, but we all know that the idea behind this is weakening Syria as a whole state and dividing it to separate countries which Israel can control and can have influence in there. And I think that this move towards normalization will not help to Syria to be a whole country, because the end game of Israel is to divide Syria into 3 or 4 weak, smaller states.
With that, I would like to thank Mr. Khatibi for joining us all the way from Tehran.